Go for it.
All right, we're gonna start with the art of lining up. Now that we've got multiple classes going on in there at the same time, we can have up to 4 classes going on at the same time. At this point, the most we have is 2, sometimes 3 if we've got a one-on-one, but because there are so many classes going on at the same time, we need to make sure we get this under control. The art of lining up. Put your body behind your coach, and that is a very specific phrase that I want to hear more of this week. So if you're in Miss April's class, Miss April will say, okay, if you're in Miss April's class, please come line up with Miss April, so that they know very specifically where to line up. Especially when they're getting water, we're seeing a lot of them getting water and then running back into the gym. They need to know, once you get water, come stand here. One of the coaches told me this week if they're headed to the green dots next, she says, okay, get your water and come stand on the green squares that are on the mat. So they are color coordinated technically to the dots in the big gym. You're welcome to do it that way. If you're the only class in the gym, sometimes I tell them, okay, get your water and then find a warm-up dot to stand on, and then I have them jump around the warm-up dots until everybody's done. But they need a specific place to go when they are finished before they move on to their next activity. Number 2 is put your feet on the orange line. We don't have orange lines yet. It is the plan that starting tomorrow, you will have lines from each dot. There will be a green line from the green dots all the way back to the warm-up area. There will be a blue line from the blue dots all the way back to the warm-up area. So once you have them back on their dot, after all their rotations are finished, you will stand them up and say, we're gonna put our feet on the blue line all the way back to the warm-up area. Clear visual marks. This will also happen, we are planning the long floor, normally has 8 stations. We are gonna split those 8 stations to make a walkway in the middle like we did before. And those lines will come right through the walkway in the middle. That split will happen again for a reason in a minute. But please be very specific. I saw a couple of classes earlier this week. The kids were all done with their rotation. They made it back to their dots. The teacher went and stood by the dots and said, all right, let's go get water. And then the teacher left, but the kids are still sitting on the dots because the teacher never said, all right, we need to stand up, follow your coach. So you have to give those specific directions, otherwise they're not going to be able to understand it. So with those lines, our hope is going to be, they've all made it back to their dots, the coach will go into the front or assign someone, one of your older students, to be in the front, say, okay, can you follow the line back to the warm-up area? So that we'll have very specific pathways for them to walk so that they're not walking in between another class, they are not stepping on other classes or other children that are already on their dots, because the pathway that has been made for them will make sure that they don't. And number 3, child, put your body behind the coach. So this is something that is more specific to your 3 and 4-year-old classes who aren't gonna understand, okay, Miss April's class, line up with Miss April, or Miss Shea's class, line up with Miss Shea. It may be that I say, Mason, please come line up with Coach Casey. Elliot, please line up with Coach Katie. So using their names specifically, especially if they tend to be the more wanderers or the younger ones, using their name to tell them where to go every time. So I want to see this week. As I said, your lines will be there this week, and hopefully this will get a little bit cleaner this week. Second step, classroom management. Giving effective instructions when you are standing to give your lessons. First one, get your child's attention. Second, say what you want them to do, not what you don't want them to do. Third, give them a specific instruction, one at a time. 4, again, be specific. 5, give us a sentence, not as questions. 6, make sure they understand it. 7, use gestures. And 8, use a neutral voice. I gave you 8 instructions just then. Just like you give 8 instructions on the floor. How many of them can you tell me? I know, right? Call you out. Right, you can remember 4 of them. And you're grown-ups. So let's go back. getting their child's attention. Once they're on their dot, you're standing in your spot. Everybody eyes on me. Point your nose to my nose. Let me see your binoculars. Let me see your, everybody eyes on me. Are you gonna get everybody's eyes? No. If you have a second coach, that second coach is gonna help you get everybody's eyes. But you have to understand, get most of their attention before you start your directions. Because if you sit them down and walk up and just start, they're still fighting about who's on what dot. So get their attention. Say what you want them to do, not what you don't. All right, when we get to the station, we're not gonna do a backwards roll, we're gonna do a forwards roll. All they're gonna remember is you said backwards roll first. So make sure you're giving them one lesson on each space.
Another example, not even skill-wise, but like, don't tell them things like, make sure you don't kick the balloon. That's not going to be helpful. That's the same as thinking, kick the balloon. When you're trying to say push to a front support, make sure you're focusing on the push to a front support, not the don't let your feet touch my balloon. Or,
this also will go with your positive language that we're trying to work on in the class. Oh no, don't run. They're going to remember don't run, but what we're asking you to tell them is what they should be doing instead. So using your walking feet. So that also goes with our positive language that we want to support here all over the gym. Give instructions one at a time. This is the hard part for us. Giving instructions one at a time because you have 8 stations, you have 5 stations. This is where we're gonna have to break this down a little bit. For floor, we're gonna do a couple of things. Your older kids may be able to remember all 8. This week, I don't know if you've noticed, you had words and pictures on some of your stations. So even if they didn't remember, they had a picture. That will help with their instructions as well. I'm giving them one instruction at a time. The younger the group, the less instructions you can give them. And as I said, be specific. On Saturday, I said, Ava, go jump. And Ava started to jump right where she was. And I was like, Ava, go jump on the trampoline. And she was like, oh, okay, let's go. Back to the trampoline. So you have to be specific in what you want them to do. Lifting up one leg, they may not understand that. So it's a combination of being specific and modeling for them what you would like them to do. Give as a sentence, not a question. This goes both ways because you can ask a comprehension question. Did they understand? Do you know what you're supposed to do here? After you've given them instructions. But if I go up to the red mat and stand up and say, okay, what do we do here? They don't know because I haven't told them yet. Because we use that mat for various things. So please make sure if you're asking them a question, it comes as a comprehension question for an instruction that you've already given. Using gestures, that includes pointing, that includes modeling, and using a neutral voice. The higher your voice gets, or the louder your voice gets, the higher and the louder their voice is gonna get. So if you notice that they're getting loud, you're welcome to try and bring your voice down and get it softer so that they start to listen better. It doesn't always work. But your neutral voice is what needs to happen. We're getting a lot of comments about how loud it is in the gym because we've got 2 classes of 6, so that's 12 kids in the gym. They're not going to be quiet, but they have to be listening enough to listen to their coach and listen when their coach is talking. So we don't expect them to be quiet. We want them to be having fun, but we also want to keep the volume at a level that they can still hear and understand. One to 2 age can follow a 1-step direction.
that's why they bring their parents.
That's why we have, me and my grad classes. So 2 to 3-year-olds can follow 2-part commands. For example, go to your room, get your jacket. They may come up with their jacket and 4 other things, but they understood. So that means if you've got 2-year-olds, you can only give them 2 steps at a time. Again, if we have our circuit, you can show them a picture and maybe hope they'll remember the other 2 spots. Or one of those spots is your spotting spot, So they don't have to remember that one, but they have to be able to do the rest of them by memory. And that's what's going to struggle. 3 to 4 year olds can follow multiple point instructions, usually no more than 4. Sometimes better. Repetition. Gifted learners in general, no matter age, must be told something anywhere from 1 to 4 times to remember it. That may not necessarily be 1 to 4 times in succession. You're seeing these kids a week apart. So even if you said it 4 times the week before, there is no guarantee they're going to remember it. Average learners, up to 10 repeats before they understand. And our buddies, up to 100 before they completely grasp the concept. So we have 18 weeks of class. For 18 weeks, Coach Carson can tell Evie to do a front roll. She's never going to understand when he says front roll to do a front roll. So no matter how many times you repeat it, it is always going to be as if it's the first time they are hearing it. So repeating is your key skill. Hank, have I called your name? Thanks. Thank you. If it's not working, change it. This is the key to our flexibility. If it's not working, change it. Because no matter how good my lesson plan is, and it's amazing, it's not going to fit every kid. It's not going to fit every class. And so if it's not working for your class, change it. Me and my grown-up classes are not going to work the same as our 4 and 5-year-old preschool classes. The same as our one-on-one buddy classes. So change it to work for your kid, and that's where knowing where your kids and your class are going to come in. Break down the moves. So we're starting handstands this week. If you have a brand new kid who hasn't been here, they still don't know front roll, back roll. They don't know bear crawl positions to be able to straighten their arms, push to front support. You've got to be able to break the skill down before they can start the new skill. So if they've been here for all the lessons so far, we've been slowly preparing them for handstand. We've been doing levers, we've been doing bear crawls, all of those things to prepare them. If they haven't had that preparation though, you've got to break down that skill for them before they can get there. Point number 2, you can use multiple mats. We got mats everywhere in there. Use one. Even if it's at another station, if it's at another station that's not being used, there are 4 rotations, 4 apparatus rotations. 2 of those aren't being used right now. You can grab a mat from that station to help you if your kid needs a little bit of extra help. We see this a lot with bars because some of our kids vary in height sizes. Grab another mat to help them with their activity. And the third point, divide the class into groups. If you have 2 coaches, this is a great example of what I want to start seeing on floor, because we have 8 spots. Split the class in half, run 4 rotations and 4 rotations, and then swap. That means 5 minutes on those 4 rotations before you swap it. So you will see this will become easier, especially if you have 4 or less kids in your class. 4 spots only, and then swap them.
So we can do half the circuit even if we don't split the class in half, right?
Yes. The other thing that you're going to start seeing specifically on floors, I talked about that walkway we were making in the middle. That walkway is going to become your natural divide. So you have 4 stations on one side and 4 stations on the other. Your older classes, if you want to keep doing that, the big circuit, that's fine. You have to be able to run the big circuit though. We're going to have some additional the vinyl arrows to help you. If you're running the full big circuit, you can put the arrows in the middle to tell them to remind them to keep going, or you can move the arrows to modify it to your 4. Yes, ma'am.
Just remember that you guys have the authority to change these things for your classes. So just because Casey and Rebecca set it up one way doesn't mean you can't go get the arrows and add them if your kids need them. Or for example, one day I went in and one of the teachers was like, they're just forgetting where to go. And I was like, okay, so I just got like a long Velcro strip line and put it from this station to this station to this station to this station, and then the kids need to walk on the line. So and they're not gonna they can't think of and implement every single thing that might help any certain class, but you guys can do that whenever needed. Like you can decide, okay, I need to split this in half. My kids are getting lost after this bar, they don't know where to go. You guys are allowed, just reiterating, as coaches, y'all can do that. You don't have to follow the lesson plan only. You can make it work, as you said, for your class. So you are in charge. You are allowed to do that, in case anybody thought you're not supposed to do that.
For example, this past week, Miss April's class was going on at the same time mine and Katie's class was going on. Her class had a full class of 6 to 8 of them, I think, on Mondays. And then our class only had 3. So whereas April used the full circuit, Katie and I split our circuit in half and did the 4 and 4. Because it made it easier for us to keep up with those 3 who were only doing 4 items at a time. And you're welcome to delete, modify, change it if it's not working for you. A few ideas for redirecting. So this is for your busier students that are in your class. Give them choices. If you don't want to do a back roll, would you like to do a log roll or a front roll? Give them 2 choices that are acceptable. Don't just say, well, what do you want to do instead? Give them 2 choices that you are perfectly fine with them doing. I used this phrase on Saturday, and one of the moms was like, I'm going to start using that phrase. Would you like to do this by yourself, or would you like my help? That can be used to help redirect some of your kids. I had a student who was a runner, and the rest of our class is on floor. He's decided to go to trampoline, and I sat him down and I said, okay, we're gonna go to floor with the rest of our class because our rule is to stay with our class. You can go by yourself or you can go with my help. Which one do you want? He chose not, and I was like, okay, that means you're gonna get my help. Okay, and we went together. So giving them even that kind of acceptable choice is okay. They must have a choice because that feels like their ownership as part of their class, and it will help in them redirecting because they're like, oh, I got to choose what I want to do. Use a distraction. Give a simple instruction to distract them from the challenging behavior. We did this a lot this past week with props. We had animals, we had apples, we had things that we could use to distract them. How many apples can you count? What can you do? So give them something simple. Use the theme, act like the animal, grab one of the extra props. It's okay if the apples are not all on the tree. They can be in other places. This next week we're having teddy bear picnic. They're all bringing, we're going to request that they bring their own teddy bears. There will be extra stuffed animals around. Grab an extra prop, have them do something to redirect them. Have the animal do it with them. And then redirect that energy. If you see a kid who's doing this while trying to wait their turn, they're not good at waiting their turn, and that's okay. Give them something else to do. Ask them to do jumping jacks. Ask them to jump up and down 10 times. Turn in 2 circles, and then turn in 2 circles the other way. Give them something that is still active to get that energy out, but then keeps going. This week is Teddy Bear Picnic. Next week is Itsy Bitsy Spider. Have them sing the Itsy Bitsy Spider song that goes with the lesson plan because it's got movements and they can jump up and down. But redirect that energy. Using positive reinforcement and acknowledgement, it validates the child's feeling, and they, at the preschool age, they are still very much people pleasers. So they want you to notice that they're doing a good job. You have to make sure that you spread the love all the way around the class. Say something positive to everyone. And avoid power struggles. Calmly stop inappropriate behavior. This is a struggle for a lot of us because we have so many difficult behaviors sometimes in our one-on-ones. So you've got to take your deep breath, say okay, see if you can figure out the root of the problem. Is it a communication issue? Is it something that they specifically don't want to do or are scared to do before you can redirect or do any of the others? If it's still not working and you are getting frustrated, grab the front desk person. Grab me, grab Teresa. We will come in, see if we can solve, or have you at least step out to take a deep breath before you come back in. Because they will feed off of your energy. Yes, ma'am.
What would be an appropriate way to come grab the front desk person without looking like you're about to strangle a child? Or screaming like, they're just not listening. Is there a sign we could use, or is there just like a flag down motion, or a, hey Teresa, could you come? Like, what's best, do you think?
So I was gonna say even at that, I would say,
I'll say if it were me, I would just be like, hey Teresa, could you come in here for a sec? And not give details on what the
Yeah.
child is doing.
and it could be something simple like that, because if you're gonna step out to take a deep breath, it could be that the parents are gonna think you went to the bathroom and you needed a potty break. Because something simple like that, I like that. You can also play telephone. So like if something's happening in the trampoline area and Miss Shea's class is on this side, hey Miss Shea, can you grab Miss Teresa for me? So that you're not leaving your kid at the trampoline who's having a meltdown, stepping to the front desk. So it could just be something like that, because the front desk is not necessarily always going to be focused on that room. So if you need their help, you're going to have to get front desk's attention first.